survival, of enduring the unthinkable and emerging on the other side, forever changed. Now seemed to be a harbinger of doom. The once bright banners of the kingdom hung dawn of a new day. Kaelen, the weight of Lysoria's gratitude heavy on his shoulders, trained relentlessly. Every swing of his sword, every drop of sweat that fell to the ground, was a testament to his unwavering dedication. He had become a symbol of hope for the people, a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness. He knew the fight was far from over. The battles he had fought were just the beginning, mere skirmishes in a war that threatened to consume everything he held dear. The enemy was not just a physical force, but a manifestation of despair and chaos. The void, though sealed, was a wound on the world's soul, a festering sore that threatened to erupt once more. It was a dark, malevolent force that sought to unravel the very fabric of reality, to plunge Lysoria into an abyss from which there would be no return. He could feel its pull, a constant, insidious whisper at the edge of his senses. It was a voice that promised power and destruction, a siren call that sought to lure him into the depths of madness. But Kaelen was resolute. He would not succumb to its temptations. He pushed himself to the limit and beyond, honing his skills with a desperate urgency. Every day was a battle against time, a race to prepare for the inevitable clash that loomed on the horizon. His body ached, his muscles screamed for rest, but he could not afford to stop. Sleep offered little respite, his dreams haunted by visions of the void's horrors. Night after night, he was tormented by images of destruction and death, of a world consumed by darkness. The faces of those he had lost, their eyes filled with pain and accusation, haunted his every moment of rest. The faces of fallen comrades, Their pleas for mercy echoing in his ears fueled his resolve. He remembered their sacrifices, their bravery in the face of insurmountable odds. They had given everything for a chance at peace, and he would honor their memory by continuing the fight. He would not let them down. Their spirits were with him, guiding his hand, strengthening his resolve. He was their legacy, the living embodiment of their hopes and dreams. He would carry their torch forward no matter the cost. He would not let Lysoria fall. The city was more than just a place. It was a symbol of resilience, a bastion of hope in a world teetering on the brink of despair. He would defend it with his life, standing as a bulwark against the encroaching darkness. Sira, his ever-faithful companion, watched with growing concern. She saw the toll the burden was taking on him, the way his laughter came less easily, the way his eyes seemed to hold the weight of the world. She knew that he was fighting not just for Lysoria, but for his very soul. She saw the toll the burden was taking on him, the way his laughter came less easily, the way his eyes seemed to hold the weight of the world. She could see the cracks in his armor, the way his spirit seemed to bend under the immense pressure. Yet she also saw his unwavering determination, the fire that still burned within him. She tried to offer him comfort, a moment of peace in the storm, but the fear that gnawed at his heart was a relentless beast. She would sit with him in the quiet moments, offering words of encouragement, trying to ease his burden. But she knew that the true battle was one he had to fight alone, within the depths of his own soul. Ominous signs began to surface throughout Lysoria. The once peaceful kingdom now found itself under a shroud of dread, as if the very air had turned against its inhabitants. The skies, once clear and blue, were now perpetually overcast, with dark storm clouds looming ominously over the land. The villages, once bustling with life, now stood eerily silent, abandoned by those who could no longer bear the oppressive atmosphere. Whispers of strange creatures sighted in the forests, shadows moving just beyond the reach of the torchlight. These sightings were not mere figments of imagination. They were real, and they were growing bolder. The forest paths, once safe for travelers, had become treacherous, with mysterious figures lurking in the darkness, their intentions unknown. The villagers spoke in hushed tones of eyes watching them from the shadows, of footsteps that echoed their own. The once vibrant flora wilted, replaced by a creeping blight that seemed to consume all life in its path. The trees, once tall and proud, now stood as skeletal remains, their branches devoid of leaves. Flowers that once bloomed in a riot of colors now lay wilted and lifeless, their petals scattered like ashes. The blight spread relentlessly, leaving a trail of decay and despair in its wake. The air itself felt heavy, thick with an unnatural chill. It was as if the very essence of the land had been tainted, corrupted by an unseen force. The fog that rolled in each morning was not the gentle mist of old, but a cold, clammy presence that seemed to sap the warmth from the bones. Even the breath of the villagers turned to icy vapor, a constant reminder of the unnatural cold that gripped the land. Lady Cerys, the queen who had led Lysoria through the darkness, shared Kaelen's unease. She was a beacon of hope for her people, but even she could not hide the worry that gnawed at her heart. The weight of the kingdom's troubles bore heavily upon her shoulders, and she spent countless nights at the large table in her chambers, studying maps and scrolls, searching for a solution. She had aged years in the short span since the Void's assault, her once youthful face etched with worry lines. The stress of leadership and the constant threat of the unknown had taken their toll. Her eyes, once bright and full of determination, now held a shadow of doubt. Yet she remained resolute, determined to find a way to protect her people from the encroaching darkness. She spent countless hours poring over ancient texts, searching for answers, for any knowledge that could help them combat the encroaching darkness. The ancient manuscripts spoke of forgotten prophecies and long-lost spells, of heroes who had once stood against similar threats. Lady Cerys hoped to find a clue, a hint of what they were facing and how they could defeat it. Her dedication was unwavering, her resolve unbreakable. The reports from the outlying villages grew increasingly dire. Messengers arrived daily with news of more villages falling to the blight, of more livestock disappearing, of more people succumbing to the fear that gripped the land. The villagers, once proud and resilient, now lived in constant fear. their faces etched with worry and despair. The kingdom was on the brink of collapse, and Lady Cerys knew that time was running out. Livestock went missing, their bones found picked clean and eerily arranged. The once thriving farms now stood empty, their fields overgrown with weeds. The farmers, who had once taken pride in their work, now looked upon their lands with a sense of loss and hopelessness. The eerie arrangements of bones were a grim reminder of the unseen threat that lurked in the shadows, a warning of the fate that awaited them all. Villagers spoke of nightmares that bled into their waking hours, of voices that whispered promises of power and destruction. These nightmares were not mere dreams. They were a manifestation of the darkness that had taken hold of Lysoria. The voices, seductive and insidious, promised power to those who would embrace the darkness, but at a terrible cost. The villagers, already on edge, found themselves torn between fear and temptation. A palpable fear gripped the kingdom, a fear that whispered of ancient prophecies and forgotten horrors. The old stories, once dismissed as mere legends, now seemed all too real. The kingdom stood on the precipice of disaster, and the people looked to their queen for guidance. Lady Cerys knew that the fate of Lysoria rested in her hands, and she vowed to do whatever it took to save her people from the encroaching darkness. For salvation.